Duet Night Abyss patch 1.4 feels like a reset. After getting sidetracked by Huashu from 1.1 to 1.3, this patch brings us back to Hyperborea and all of its politics. We're introduced to new characters, and we are reintroduced to the Forsakens, their plans, and hints of what's to come. There's a lot to go through, but before we continue, greetings, I'm Lord. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing. And if you're not new, welcome back. Let's discuss Duet Night Abyss's patch 1.4 story. The story was pretty good as a nice refresher on the state of things in Hyperborea and how its politics follow it even in places like a train station. However, I feel like the plot didn't have a lot of substance to it in the beginning parts, leading to the first half of the story being rather snooze-worthy. Let's talk about it. The plot of this patch was simple. Board the Jackdaw and free Berenica. And the bulk of the story is spent outmaneuvering the Imperial Guards and discovering that things aren't as they seem. While I like the cat and mouse game we play with the Imperials, avoiding their gaze by heading underground and sneaking around to find information on the Jackdaw, it does feel like some parts of it were just padding. A big example of this is when we're weighing our options with Outsider and Snow, and resort to doing menial chores before someone gives us an in. I find that part to be an incredible time waster. Don't like it. Fortunately, that's the only section that I feel like was a waste of time. The character writing was on point too. It's great to see Outsider again, and he plays off of the Fox Hunter and Snow well, as if we didn't spend 6 months away from him. Snow was actually resourceful for once. Sure, it happens late in the story when Outsider agrees to let himself be detained by the station guard, but it's thanks to her that we were able to discover how the Forsaken set off a bomb in the station in the first place. The MC once again gets involved with someone who drags them on a whole different adventure. Hopefully this time, Flora doesn't have any ulterior motives, unlike Jiliu. Speaking of Flora, she and her maid Hilda are the two new playable characters released. Flora's introduction was great, as she used her authority to save the Fox Hunter several times before her request. The same can also be said about Hilda. I like how we weren't sure if we could trust her at first. Since the moment we reached the Jackdaw, she attacks Outsider and the Fox Hunter, but she does prove to be reliable and trustworthy. While we don't spend too much time with Hilda, we spend a lot of time with Flora. We learn she's an exiled princess of the Empire, and she's suddenly being hauled off to the capital to live in the castle. It's obvious she's a loose end the Emperor wants to tie up, so she requests the Fox Hunter to spirit her away from the Jackdaw. The entire sequence of us abducting Flora and arriving on a passenger train was enjoyable for what it's worth. This is also when we're reintroduced to Katya. We hear her voice in a train station and she's mentioned by her partner who we fight twice, but here she plans on blowing up the train we're on. I'm not entirely sure what her motives are, but I don't think they matter, as she wants to cause as much chaos as possible. I didn't expect Katya to be as unhinged and sinister as she's presented in this patch. When confronted with her actions, Flora and the Fox Hunter make it clear that she's going to get her fellow Charons caught in the explosions. The Forsaken's goals and the reason for existing is for Charon's supremacy against her oppressors in the Empire. However, Katya justifies killing her own kind by stating that they help fund the army with their meager wages. An excuse so terrible that it turns her and the Forsakens into homicidal maniacs, which is clearly the writer's intentions with her. The story ends with us getting killed and revived by Flora, and awakening our Umbro powers, which I will get into later. We are eventually found by a familiar girl. If you've been around Ice Lake enough times, you may have noticed her on a bench playing a harp. Now she's out traveling and has discovered the Fox Hunter. Now our next step is to catch up with Flora in a place called Aetheryte. There are still some things about the story that I didn't like. First, I have to say Halogi was a major disappointment. Maybe I set my expectations up too high for him, but I was surprised that we kill him in our second battle with him. I figured at some point he'd be playable, but I guess not. How we get Umbro Fox Hunter was also a disappointment. With its design and how late in the story we get it, I thought it'd have something to do with Psyche. With us dying, I figured we meet her in the Misty Sea and she'd help us. Then we get our Umbro powers. But I guess in retrospect, it wouldn't make sense since Psyche is Animo in game, but still, the butterfly design of the cape speaks to a connection with her. Overall, this was a great reintroduction into Ice Lake, the Empire, and its politics. It's said throughout the story that the Empire is doomed to fall, so maybe 1.x will end with the Empire collapsing? Maybe it will be a long-term plotline. Who knows? There's also the mysterious man who rescued us in 1.0, who also appears with Katya as a member of the Forsakens. I'm curious on his deal and why he decided to help us initially, but we'll have to wait until we confront him ourselves. Anyway, what do you all think about Duet Night Abyss 1.4? Leave your thoughts in the comments. For those who played DNA in the past and are thinking of starting back up, I definitely recommend it as the story is bringing its focus back on Hyperborea. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later.